running towards, running away and running towards. I am running away and running towards. I am running away and running towards. I can invite you to join me on this. It's just running away and running towards. So whatever you're in the middle of, you can dedicate it to that. I am running away and running towards. 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 And I don't know where I'm going, but that's okay. I don't know where I'm going, but that's okay. Step by step, I'm finding my way. Thank you.
How are you feeling today? Okay. See, I just need to know, because, if you're just going to be like, whatever, I'm just going to be like, whatever, I'll just tell you, you're good, God's everywhere, have a great life. But if you're excited, then we can have a whole different conversation. So I just like to know, just like to check in. We are talking today about letting go and letting God. Ever heard that? Oh, yeah. Ever practice it? Not so much, right? But I like the theory. I like the concept. I'm kind of like that guy. There's this guy that was walking along and out hiking, beautiful summer day out hiking, and got a little too close to the cliff and slid. And on his way down, he caught a branch. And as he looked down, it was a long, long drop. He also noticed that there was a bear down there. So he figured if the fall didn't kill him, the bear probably would. No one around, so he's like, oh my God, help, help. Is there anyone up there? Help. Is there anyone up there? Finally, the clouds part. Big booming voice. This is God. Let go. Is there anyone else up there? Right? Do you know this? I often say, I go into prayer looking for guidance. Oh, infinite Spirit, lead me, guide me, direct my life. The little voice says, here's what I want you to do. I say, oh, infinite Spirit, let me rephrase the question. Let me reframe the prayer. Because have you noticed how often when we go to the divine and ask for guidance, it tells us to do either what we already know we should be doing or something we don't want to do? You notice that? And we're thinking, but I know I want a different result in my life. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing now. Is that too much to ask? It's like, yeah, if you want a different result, So I wanted to look at this idea today because I think it's wonderful to really look at what does it mean to let go, to allow the divine to work through us. There's a wonderful phrase from probably the most famous philosopher of all time, Anonymous. It's been around forever. I don't know if you know this, but when it says, when you come to the edge of all that is known, one of two things will happen. Either you will step onto solid ground or you will learn to fly. You see, I think there comes a point in our spiritual growth and evolution that we must believe more in the invisible than the visible. Wayne Dyer taught us many years ago that he said, when you believe it, you'll see it. But we tend to be skeptical as human beings. We want to see the result in advance. We want to see the path in advance. We want to see the steps. I've said this forever. In fact, I used to say, this is how long I've said this, I'm willing to fulfill God's plan if he will just send it to me, just fax it to me. Now he can email, I'm cool, But, all right, I want the 10 steps. You're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And yet my experience has been more that it's important to take the next step and wait for further information. You notice that? You take the next step. And unless we're willing to take that step, the universe is really going, whatever, right? So it's that trusting that we are divinely guided and directed. Now, how do we get there? You see, every once in a while I have a word with myself, as they say in Canada. Have a word with yourself. And the word that I have with myself is, if there's an intelligence at work in our universe, and if that intelligence is all-powerful and all-knowing, if that same intelligence that caused the planets to express and be in perfect balance and motion, that causes the galaxies to exist, that causes this whole universe to be, if there is indeed that intelligence, maybe, just maybe, it could direct my life. Now, I don't want to get too radical, because now it's personal. I get it. You can run a whole universe. You can create out another. I get that, but this is my life. And I have an agenda. So here we are. Excuse me. I remember years ago studying with Michael Beckwith, and he made a statement, and I didn't understand it then, but I'm understanding it more and more. He said, 90% of our spiritual growth is about letting go. I know, that's a lot. You see, because my pattern had been get more information, get more insight, get more. So I know some of you are in a 12-step program because you bought too many books. I'm not pointing it out to anybody, but you know who you are. You know you have stacks and there boxes and there, and then you're like me. I'm not going to buy a book. I'll go, but I'm not buying a book. I've got the book, got the signature, but right? So I said we could have a 12-step program, but then the only thing that happens out of that, we all come together and exchange books, so nobody really wins. We just, keep doing this thing. So you know who we are. It's like that idea. Now, I'm all for books. I'm all for classes. I mean, what's what we do here, classes, workshops, all that sort of thing. But there can be a mentality that says my greater good is just lying with the next piece of information. And so I was intrigued with this idea that more and more it is about letting go of all of that extraneous stuff and listening to the one voice that is always true and always guiding and directing. It is about letting go and trusting that our lives are one with this intelligence that knows indeed how to create all things, that there is a wisdom and intelligence that is within the seed that has everything necessary for the fulfillment of that idea. Everything exists within the seed. We have within us that divine seed of possibility, and it speaks to us from time to time. It whispers to us. And so when we go into prayer and we ask for greater wisdom and greater insight and greater possibility, and we get the message, we say, oh, well, I won't say what we say. We say, oh, and fill in the blank. There's little children in the room. Because when we embrace that higher vision, that larger possibility, it says to us, you can't get there the way you are now. Not that you're not capable, not that you don't have the full potential, but it comes down to this idea that what we want to do is we want to pray to God, and we say, God, I'm over here in my nice, safe, well-defined experience of life, comfortable, happy, safe. Guide me and direct me. And God says, sure, it lives here. You say, well, I don't want that version. I want the version where I get to stay in my little box and have the big experience of life. So what happens? Sometimes we listen and say, what the heck, I'll try it. I'll do it. Sometimes we say, well, I'll just stay in my little stuck place, my little small place. And then, I don't know if you've noticed, but the voice gets cranked up. No longer still small, but sometimes big and loud, like a 2x4 kind of experience. We call it a crisis. And now what was is falling apart, and we're like, oh my goodness, what do I do now? Well, if you just listened to the still small voice while it was still and small and acted, it could have been easy, but no, Marty, you have to make it difficult. Am I the only one, or am I just me? Okay. A little over disclosure here. Is that what you're saying, TMI? Well, so my experience has been, right, that sometimes our life gets shaped up because here's what you did. Here's your mistake. You want to know? I'm going to tell you anyways. You said yes at some point to the larger vision. You said yes to the larger story. You listened to that divine voice within you that was calling you to your greater self-expression. You said, I can do that. And then everything starts to churn. And then you're like, oh, now where do I go? Where do I hide? Where could I be? Where I'm not called to my greater possibility. You see, what happens when people get stuck is it's because they are unable to release the old story to embrace a new possibility. Right? I've witnessed this both in my own experience and guiding and directing others. We'll say some powerful affirmation of truth. I am experiencing my divine wholeness. I am living my vision fearlessly. But, and then we go and tell the old story about why it can't happen and what needs to change and how our spousal unit must be different and all of that stuff. And you know, the universe is like, cool, I got this place to express. And then the but comes. It's like, oh, we were so close. Because the universe is always saying yes. And so as soon as you begin to say the but and argue for the limitation, okay, we'll do that again. We know this one. We've done this before, right? Looks kind of familiar, doesn't it? So I was in a seminar a while back with Les Brown, who's fabulous, and he was speaking to us as speakers. Just in a course with him to see if I could learn to become a speaker. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but he said this wonderful line, and he said, you know, your job as a speaker is to distract people from their current story and lead them to a new story. You're not here to sell a product or a service. You're there to sell them on a new story about themselves. And it's a story of hope and possibility. You see, we've got to disrupt our current story. We can't keep telling the same stories over and over and over, expecting that we get a new result out of that. Right? And yet sometimes our story is so familiar to us. Now, if you've been in a relationship for a while, not only are you familiar with your story, but you're familiar with your spousal unit's story, right? You can say it for them. We just get into this thing, and we don't realize that what we're doing is recreating the same patterns over and over and over so that we keep having the same experience. That's why growth and spiritual transformation becomes difficult, is not that it's really that hard. It's just that we take a step forward, but then we go back to saying the same old things we've said for all these years. And then somebody says to us, well, how did that work? And we say, well, I tried it. Didn't work out. So how many of you are sitting with this sense of greater vision of possibility in your life? Okay, just put your hand up this high, because it's not really like a big vision or anything. It's just, hello? Greater vision of possibility. Own it. Own it. And when we start to listen to that, it doesn't mean radical change necessarily, but it does mean that we have to expand the container of possibility. When we start to listen to that vision, we start to sense our purpose, why we're here on the planet. And when we see that, we're going to go, wow, and oh, some other word. Because I would believe, here's how you kind of know, when you get excited and terrified at the same time, you are probably on the right track. Because it says to us, you don't get to have it in the little box that you're living in today. It means you've got to blow out some of those ideas of who we are and what's possible and what your family has done and all of the stuff we make up to say, wow. So in our visioning process, as we're working from spiritual visioning, we're asking ourselves the first question as we move into that meditative state of being. We're asking, what's the highest possibility for my life? And we listen. And Spirit speaks to us or shows us in some way this larger story. And then we ask ourselves the question, which is crucial, then how must I grow? Or who must I become? Or what must I embrace in order to realize that vision? You see, because your life today, no judgment here, but just understand, our lives today are a reflection of how good we believe they can be. Isn't that annoying? It's annoying, isn't it, Mindy? I can see you're being annoyed over there. Right? There's nothing wrong with that, but it says in order to have a larger life, you've got to grow into that larger life. Ernest Holmes said it very powerfully. He said, you do not get the life that you want. You do not get the life that you dream of. You do not get the life that you hope for. You get the life that you can embody. So we ask, how must I grow? In other words, what areas of growth must occur? Do I need to be more expansive in my thinking? Do I need to be more skilled in my work? What is it? How do I need to grow and expand in order to inhabit this larger vision? And then the next question is, what must I release? What do I need to let go of? You see, I think sometimes it's as if these outworn ideas, these limiting beliefs are like anchors. And anchors have a place. An anchor is a really lovely thing if you're in the bay and you want to stay there. Nothing better than an anchor, right? Highly encourage it. That's why every boat has one. But if you want to move, you got to pull up the anchor. You got to stop arguing for our limitations and start telling the new story. So who would you be if you knew you couldn't fail? Who would you be if you were living that life? You see, that's what we want to start talking to. We want to stop with the buts. We get there, we express it. I'd love to. What's a life you would love? I'd love to. And if we go into but, we just negate everything that happens after that. But if we go into and, I haven't figured out how to do this yet. When we put that forward, then we create the place of possibility. So I love this idea of possibility. We exist in a sea of limitless possibilities, said Dr. Holmes, and ours is the privilege of giving birth to it. Oprah, now we're going to the, Ernest was great, but now we're going to the higher echelon of spiritual awareness. Said to us, be thankful for what you have, and you'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough. Thank you, Oprah. Concentrate on what you have. Be thankful for what you have. You see, in the seed exists all that is necessary for the fulfillment. So often, what we do is we say, yeah, I think I'd like to, but I don't have enough time, money, energy, blah, 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 blah. But Oprah, I'm talking Oprah now, okay, says unto us in her book of wisdom, be thankful for what you have and you'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you'll never have enough. What do you have today to start you on your path of fulfillment? Because what we also know is that where there is some, more is given. If I were going to, and I might, because I'm starting to run short on how many sermons I get, so I may want to start putting 2, 3, 4 together, so, these services could get a little long. I won't today, but there is that law of increase. There is that law that Jesus spoke about in the parables, that if we take what we have and hide it, nothing happens, but if we take what we have and increase it, abundance beyond measure happens for us. This is happening at every level. So the question I leave you with today is simply this. It's wonderful to understand the law of attraction, but it's also important to understand the law of release. And much of what we need to release is blame, shame, guilt, fear. All right, let's do one big confession. Let's just get it over with, okay? How many of you have made mistakes in your life? I hereby absolve you. Let's be done, okay? Let it go. Forgive yourself and get on with your life. The greatest anchor we have are those emotions. Not that we shouldn't be good, integritous people, but to release that, to use that wisdom and insight to carry us forward, to begin visioning for the life that we desire. What are we grateful for? What do we want to do now? How do we want to grow? Who do we want to become? What must we recognize in this moment? And then realize that there is indeed a greater intelligence at work in us, through us, and around us. The spiritual masters through the ages have taught us this. Why not? So vision is everything. Jesus had this high vision of possibility of who he was, and that if he could deliver his message to the world would be healed. So he said, I think I'll open a little food pantry. We could feed a few people. Right? He said, know who you are. Know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Love one another, forgive one another, extend compassion. And thousands of millions of food pantries have opened out of that. You see, sometimes we take this vision of possibility for our life, we say, well, I'll do this little thing. And I'm just saying, be willing to be open to the greater possibility. Know that there is an intelligence that placed the seed within you that has everything necessary for its fulfillment. And then lastly, I love this passage from Matthew 11, if you want to look it up, where he says, come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Come unto me, come unto the divine, those who struggle, those who are striving. And I will give you rest, I will give you peace, I will give you comfort. For my yoke is easy and the burden is light. You see, when we let go and we let God be God in our lives, infinite possibility emerges. Too often we feel like our job is to tell God what to do instead of listening to what God is trying to do through us. I'd invite you to let go and let God. Let us pray. As we take a deep breath, breathing into this moment, recognizing the breath that we breathe is the very life of God. The intelligence breathing is the life of God. The interaction between the breath and the air is the act of God. It's all God and it's all good. And so as we center into that awareness of the one life, ever present, always available, working through us, as us, and in us, we expand our vision of possibility. We sense and feel and know the larger life that is seeking its expression through us. And so we surrender to this, which is to say we open to it. We allow it to be revealed through us. We claim our divine inheritance to know that we are one with Spirit and therefore with all of the qualities of Spirit. We recognize wholeness as the order of the day, and so we allow that wholeness to reveal itself as health, as well-being, as vitality. We speak this word of truth as we recognize our divine inheritance as one of unconditional and absolute love. And when we move into that state of grace, we find it very easy to forgive. We find it easy to extend compassion. We find it easy to release that which no longer serves us. We claim our divine inheritance of one of abundance, of joy, of fulfillment. We allow ourselves to fully participate in the cycle of life, joyously giving and graciously receiving of this divine bounty. We're knowing in this moment the truth of who we are. And we're allowing that high vision to lead and guide us as we bring forth our gifts, as we bring forth the light, the love, and the truth that is the divine resident within us. How good it is to know this truth. How good it is to rejoice in it. We know without doubt that we are blessed beyond measure. And as we give thanks for these many blessings, it's very natural to extend a blessing to others. We begin by blessing this spiritual community, this divine idea which continues to unfold in ways of peace and joy and abundance, knowing that each and every step is unfolding perfectly. We extend that blessing to our brothers and sisters around the planet, choosing to not see separation, but to see unity, to see that which binds us, to lift up our brothers and sisters into that awareness of the unity of all life, sensing and feeling and knowing a world that works for all, a planet at peace, and a planet in harmony with herself. We call forth this truth, and we, as we do every Sunday, we simply take a moment to bless all priests, rabbis, imams, and teachers of all faiths. For we know that where two or more are gathered in the presence of the I Am, love exists, Spirit is unfolding. We honor all paths to the divine. How grateful I am to stand in this awareness, to give thanks for these many blessings, those seen and those yet to be realized, And knowing that even as we release this word, the law is acting upon the consciousness that we have established here and now. And it is good. And it is very good. So for all of these blessings and so many more, I'm simply giving thanks, allowing it to be so, as together we say, and so it is.